with wildly generous and joyful applause. Please welcome to the stage, Jess.
Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to put your ring in the bag. I had just taken off all my clothes and I put on my hospital gown and I put on my rubber grippy socks. And I just was pinned down before I got here. I was pinned down in my front yard. And my mom and my sister had like pinned me down, and they had to rush me to the ER because just before that, I was hallucinating that my baby, my newborn baby, and my husband are the devil. And so I remember her screaming and screaming, and he was like, "You need to feed her. You need to feed her." And I just couldn't. I could not feed the devil, so I just backed away and I let her scream and scream until it was silent, and I was too afraid to check why. So again, ma'am, you need to put your ring in the bag. And so I was slowly trying to take my ring off, and it brought me back to this memory of where I was in the bathtub. This was a few days before, and my husband was sitting next to me outside the bathtub. He was too afraid to leave me alone because I had just recently called the suicide hotline in the bathtub. And I said, how do I know that you're not going to leave me? How do I know that you still love me after all of these thoughts that I've been having of ending my life and ending my daughter's life? I had all these hallucinations and these voices telling me to do it. And he said, Jess, and he took my hand and he pointed to my ring, and he said, when I was about to propose to you, I picked this ring because for a very specific reason. There are 3 stones on this ring. One represents the past, one represents the future, and the biggest one represents the present, the now, because really you cannot change the past. You can't control the future. All we really have is now. Ma'am, you need to take your ring off and put it in the bag. And so I slid it off and I finally got it off, and I thought, God, I must be dying. Maybe they're collecting my belongings because I should be like, they're going to take me to my funeral and bury me. And and so as I got my ring off, I remembered telling the nurse, please give this to my husband, please. I just wanted him to give it to my baby girl, maybe something to remember her mommy by. I tried my best. I gave him my best. And so I remember the paramedics, they wheeled me to the ER. I'm sorry, to the psych ward. And they strapped me down, and it was horrifying because they took me to the hospital. And as they were wheeling me away, I remember hearing my sister's voice saying, she can't hear without her hearing aid. Please make sure she has her hearing aid, that she has extra battery, make sure she has it. And so they took me to the psych ward. And in my mind, it was hell. It was hell, or at least purgatory. And it was the most terrifying, traumatic experience being there for 12 days. I couldn't see my baby until 10 days. And they said, if you want to pump, or if you want to be able to feed your baby, you need to pump and dump for 1 year. And that was so painful because it was the only thing I had to remember her. And anyway, I remember finally after the terrifying events, I was discharged, and I was finally able to see my husband and be reunited with my ring and my beautiful baby girl. And I fed her by bottle. And it was so painful because my sister-in-law, she just had her baby at the same time, and I just had to look at that every single time and be reminded that I was not enough, and see all these breast is best campaigns, and again a reminder I didn't feel like I was enough. But I after being discharged, even though I had my baby, I had my ring, I had my husband, something was missing. I a huge, deep, dark part of myself was missing. And so I went to the Postpartum Support International Conference, just hoping that somebody out there was like me, because 1 to 2 in every 1,000 births of people have postpartum psychosis. And I just never met anyone. I never heard of this. I needed to know there was somebody out there like me. And so I went to this conference, and there I met Teresa Toomey. And she was the first teller of tonight, actually. And I gave her a hug, and I just started sobbing. And this whole disconnect between me and the rest of the world was like a glass wall that had shattered when I hugged her. And she wasn't just a survivor, she was an advocate, she was an author. She like paved the way for so many other survivors like myself. And she said, it gets better. There's hope. It gets better. Ma'am, you need to put your clothes in the bag. And so I just recently, I put my clothes in the bag. I put on my hospital gown. I put on my rubber grippy socks. But this time it was to introduce our son into the world, Lila's little brother. And so it was beautiful. I did not get postpartum psychosis the second time around, even though I was given a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. I was given so much more. I'm so thankful. I count my lucky stars because I am alive here today, and I'm able to see my babies grow. And like today, now I'm an advocate for postpartum psychosis as the co-chair, the general advocacy for the postpartum psychosis task force. And my husband was absolutely right. It's not about the past. I can't change that, and I can't control my future. All I really have right now is the present moment, and I am so grateful that I get to be sharing that with you all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jess.
Yes.